What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Primetime Sports Podcast, hosted by Jarren Duran. So in this episode, I'm going to give a big update on the MLB. I'm going to talk a lot about the Boston Red Sox, and then talk about some other headlines across baseball really quick. We'll start off with the Red Sox. They had a huge series win over the Philadelphia Phillies last week. Believe it or not, I truly believe the Red Sox are going to get series wins against Philly and the Yankees. I just had a feeling with both of those teams coming into Boston, I thought the Red Sox would play up to their competition and have a very strong series at Fenway Park, and that ended up being the case. That ended up happening, so I was very thrilled to see it. In Game 1 against Philly, the Red Sox lost 4-1 at Fenway Park, but they did win Game 2 8-6, and then won Game 3 9-3. The same as the Yankees series, the Red Sox lost Game 1 with no offense showing up in that game. Then they woke up and won Game 2 in a little bit closer of a game, and then won in a blowout Game 3. In Game 2 against the Phillies, Nick Pivetta got the start against his former team. Was not his best night on the mound, though. 4 innings pitched, 6 hits allowed, 4 earned runs, 4 strikeouts, 4 walks. The difference maker in this game for the Red Sox in getting this 8-6 win was Jarren Duran, 3 for 5 with a run scored, an RBI, and a double. And then David Hamilton was great as well. He's been very hot over the last couple weeks. He was 2 for 4 with 2 runs batted in, 2 runs scored, and a home run. And then in Game 3, Tanner Houck was very strong on the mound. Wasn't his best stat line, but considering that Phillies offense and the position they were in a few times to score more runs, you'll take 3 earned runs in 6 innings, giving up 8 hits, 5 strikeouts, no walks. Every Red Sox player had a hit in this game, with 5 players having multi-hit games against the Phillies, who had Aaron Nola start for Game 3. Very impressive for every single player in the lineup to get a hit. Tyler O'Neill was 2 for 5 in the game with a run scored, 3 runs batted in, and a home run. Jarren Duran had another hot game against the Phillies, 2 for 4 with a run scored, 2 runs batted in, 2 doubles, and a walk. That completely gave the Red Sox momentum they needed. After splitting a 4-game series against the struggling White Sox, going out and beating the Phillies in 2 of 3 games was definitely huge to try to shift momentum and get the Red Sox back on track. Then the Red Sox had a very good series against the Yankees at home at Fenway Park, got another series win, and they played great in this series. Alex Verdugo got his revenge against the Red Sox in Game 1 in his return to Fenway, going deep on the first pitch he faced. Finished Friday with 3 hits in 5 at-bats, with a double, 4 runs batted in, and a home run, and the Yankees' 8-1 win over Boston. The Red Sox had 5 hits all night in this game and 2 errors on defense. Defense is definitely still an issue for the Red Sox. They still need to get better there, and then obviously hitting with runners in scoring position has been a worry for the Red Sox over the last couple seasons. They had 24 runners left on base in Game 1 against the Yankees, so it obviously shows they couldn't get guys moving along the base paths really much at all. The Red Sox had their 2 through 5 hitters go 0 for 15 in that Game 1. David Hamilton, who has been hot, was struggling in that game. Tyler O'Neill struggled. Rafael Devers struggled. And Masataka Yoshida struggled in that game as well. The Sox responded with a big win on Saturday, though, in Game 2 of the series, getting an excellent game out of Cooper Criswell, who went 4 innings, giving up just 2 earned runs, 6 strikeouts, 2 walks. Wasn't a perfect game, but it was a good enough game for the Red Sox to try to go out there and get a win. The Sox were up 3-0 right away in the first inning with RBIs from Tyler O'Neill, Connor Wong, and Jamie Westbrook. Jarren Duran finished the game 2 for 5 with 2 runs scored, an RBI, and a double. He's probably been the MVP for the Red Sox overall this season. Tanner Houck is right there with him, though. You can make the case for either guy. Obviously, if you look at this Red Sox team, they need to figure things out. After splitting a series with the White Sox, which was very disappointing, I thought they'd win 3 or 4 games in that series. It's hard to beat a team 4 games in a row. I've always said that. That's why we obviously see the Dallas Mavericks get a win against the Celtics. That's why the Cleveland Cavaliers got a win against the Celtics. Miami got a win against the Celtics. It is very hard to beat a team 4 games in a row. So I thought the White Sox would win at least 1 game against the Red Sox. But with them taking 2 of 4, that was disappointing. The Red Sox then end up taking 2 of 3 against the Phillies, and then took 2 of 3 against the Yankees. So that's obviously a big win there in Game 2, like I mentioned. I'll get to Game 3 in just 1 second. The Yankees made it a game in Game 2, though, in the top of the 8th inning. But the Red Sox responded, as they did all night, getting 2 runs in the bottom of the 8th to make it go from a 2-run game to a 4-run game. Red Sox end up winning that one 8-4. Then on Sunday Night Baseball, the Red Sox got a big 9-3 win to take the series over New York. The Yankees got a monster home run from Aaron Judge in the first inning, his 26th home run of the year. But Carter Crawford locked in after that, really finished the game very strong. 3 earned runs overall in the game, 6 innings pitched, 3 hits, 9 strikeouts, and a walk. The Sox got their first runs of the game with a 2-run single by Cedar Rafaela. Sox then got a few more RBIs from Rafael Devers, who grounded into a double play in the 3rd inning and then had a sac fly in the 5th inning. But that wasn't all for the Red Sox. They need to respond a little bit more since the Yankees ended up responding with 2 runs in the 6th. Things started to get a little dicey for Carter Crawford in the 6th inning, but luckily he got out of it, only allowing 2 runs. Then in the bottom of the 7th, Rafael Devers had a big RBI single. Then Connor Wong had a huge triple to right field on a misplay by Alex Verdugo, which it still ended up being a triple. 2 RBIs on that play there by Wong. And then in the same inning, Jarren Duran went from 2nd to 3rd, dared Aaron Judge to throw him out from the outfield, and he was easily safe at third base. It just shows how dangerous Jarren Duran's speed is. Then in the bottom of the eighth, the Red Sox tallied on 2 more runs. The story of this game, obviously the Red Sox scored in a lot of big positions, but the story of this game was the Red Sox aggressive base running, which I already mentioned, Jarren Duran going from second to third, daring Aaron Judge to throw him out. But the Red Sox also stole 9 bases in this game, a franchise record, 9 bases. You heard me right, 9 bases the Red Sox stole in this game. They ran all over the Yankees, and clearly they watched film, and they found something that worked against Jose Trevino, the Yankees catcher. They had 4 stolen bases from David Hamilton, who has a ton of speed. I've mentioned him on the podcast before for his speed, and then 2 stolen bases by Jarren Duran. The last time the Yankees allowed 9 stolen bases in a game was 1915. So a very impressive game of the base paths for the Red Sox. And I'm a huge fan of Sunday Night Baseball. I always look forward to it whenever the Red Sox are playing, especially when they're playing against the Yankees. I do think the Red Sox-Yankees rivalry is slowly becoming revived again. I'm really waiting for the next few series. I think things are going to really heat up against these 2 teams later on in the season. A major turning point in this game, though, on Sunday Night Baseball was with Zach Kelly on the mound. He comes in with bases loaded, no outs, has a 3-0 count to his first batter he faced, and he ends up striking out the next 2 batters, striking out Gleyber Torres after having it be a 3-0 count, then struck out Trevino, and then got a flyout from DJ LeMahieu to get the Red Sox out of the gym. Remember, it was a 3-0 count with no outs and bases loaded, and that's the 5th time since 2000 that a team has a bases loaded opportunity with no outs, a 3-0 count in the 7th inning or later, it did not score. So a very, very impressive stretch there from Zach Kelly. He really locked in, striking out Torres and Trevino, and then got a flyer from LeMahieu. He was fired up on the mound, and obviously rightfully so. There was a major turning point for the Red Sox. This was the first time the Red Sox ever won back-to-back series against teams who owned the MLB's best record entering each series. The Phillies were 45-20 and had the best record before the series against the Sox. The Red Sox ended up taking 2 of 3 against them, and then the Sox took 2 of 3 against the Yankees, who were 49-22, and had the best record in baseball before that series. So very impressive stretch for the Red Sox. They stayed hot again this past week, getting a sweep against the Toronto Blue Jays, taking 3 of 3 games against the Blue Jays in Toronto. The Red Sox are now starting to win division games that they typically lose in the past. They've really struggled in the AL East over the last few years, but things are starting to turn a little bit for the Red Sox, which is great to see. And one thing I predicted before the season began, I thought Toronto and Tampa Bay would take a step back, and that ended up being the case so far this season. The Red Sox have now won 5 games in a row. They've won 7 of the last 8 games, 8 of the last 10. Ceddanne Rafael was excellent in this series against Toronto. 5-8 with a double, a home run, 2 runs batted in, and a .2036 OPS. Over his last 12 games, he's 22 of 47 with a .468 batting average and a .1086 OPS. He has been sensational over the last couple weeks. David Hamilton has been huge as well. .328 batting average over his last 18 games with an .841 OPS over that stretch with 12 stolen bases, 2 home runs, and 7 runs batted in. And then in June, in 17 games, Jarren Duran's hitting .356 with a .1031 OPS, 3 home runs, 10 runs batted in, 8 stolen bases, 18 runs scored, 5 doubles and 2 triples. With 18 runs scored, obviously in 17 games, that shows he's getting on base a ton and putting himself in positions to score, whether it's by getting a double or getting on base with a single or walk, then staying on second base. He's putting himself in the position to score runs each and every game. Overall this season, Duran's hitting .277 with an .813 OPS, a 3.8 wins above replacement, which is the best on the Red Sox. He's been the best player on the team this season, I'd say, besides maybe Tanner Houck. Both of those guys have been sensational, and probably my 2 favorite players on the team, with Cutter Crawford being in there as well. 3.8 wins above replacement is the 8th best among position players in baseball. That's in the same conversation as Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, Gunnar Henderson, Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, some of the best players in the sport. He's in the same conversation as for wins above replacement this season. He 100% deserves to be an all-star. Duran has been a guy that has really worked on his craft over the last couple seasons. He has 9 defensive runs saved this year in the outfield, second best among outfielders in the game of baseball. His defense has been so much better over the last few years, and I'm thankful I kept faith in him. He definitely deserves all of the credit in the world. Hopefully he is an all-star this season, but like I've mentioned before, the all-star game is a popularity vote at the end of the day, and it's obviously unfortunate, but Jarren Duran definitely deserves to be an all-star. Last night, Brayan Bello pitched well for the Red Sox. 6 innings on the mound, 7 hits, 2 earned runs, 6 strikeouts, 2 walks. He needs to get going a little bit more. Like I mentioned before the season began, I had more faith in Cutter Crawford and more faith in Tanner Houck than Brayan Bello. Bello still has some good stuff, just very inconsistent. They need to see more from him over the course of 2 or 3 starts in a row. He can have one really good start, then he struggles a little bit. You need more consistency from him. The Sox have now played 3 games in Cincinnati, who have been really struggling as of late. They are 4-6 in their last 10 games played. As for the Red Sox, they're 8-2 in the last 10, 12-8 in the last 20 games, 18-12 in the last 30. They're currently one game out of the wild card. With how great the Red Sox pitching has been this season, no one wants to see this team in the playoffs. Remember, they're going to get some guys back from injury at some point soon. Chris Martin will be back soon. Tristan Casas will be back soon. This team is definitely capable of making it to the ALCS if they were to get into the playoffs, and that's because of their pitching. Is it still a long shot for them to make it to the ALCS? Yes, but you do need good pitching in order to get to where you want to get to, and the Red Sox right now have very, very good pitching. We saw Arizona make a deep run of the playoffs last year, considering they had some clutch hitting in some big moments, and Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly, they were great on the mound, and Brandon Pfaadt, he was great on the mound as well. You need very good pitching to make a run in the playoffs. This Red Sox team, I know they're still currently out of the wild card race, but if they make it in, they can be dangerous. And I believe they're going to be in the playoffs. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I believe this Red Sox team is capable of making the playoffs. That's why I had them making the playoffs in my predictions before the season began. I know I'm a little biased as a big Red Sox fan, but the reality is they are playing good baseball right now. Now I'm going to transition and talk about Royce Lewis, who has 8 home runs, 12 runs batted in, a .380 batting average, a 1339 OPS, and a .900 slugging percentage in 14 games played this season. That's a ridiculous stat line, 8 home runs with a .380 batting average and a 1339 OPS in 14 games, and a .900 slugging percentage. The main issue for Lewis, though, is staying healthy. When healthy, he's a legitimate MVP candidate. He's electrifying to watch. He always keeps a great attitude, even with all of the adversity he's had to face in his career over the last few seasons with a lot of injuries. He always keeps a smile on his face and tries to stay positive. He's an absolute masher when he's at the plate, capable of 40-plus home runs if he can stay on the fields. In 90 games he's played in his MLB career, in his first 90 games in the major leagues, despite those games being scattered with injuries, he's hitting .313 for a batting average, with a .617 slugging percentage, a .992 OPS, with 29 home runs and 74 runs batted in. 29 home runs, 74 runs batted in 90 career games. That's very impressive. He can be a legitimate superstar if he can get some luck and stay healthy. If he can get some luck and stay healthy, he can be a legitimate superstar. That's why he was one of my picks to watch out for the MVP vote in the AL this season. So now I'll move on and talk about the New York Mets, who are really starting to heat up as of late, which is great to watch. They're 35-38 overall, 8-2 in the last 10 games played, 13-7 in the last 20 games. They just had a 7-game winning streak, sweeping San Diego, and they're taking 2 of 3 against the Texas Rangers. Good to see them starting to put things together as of late. In June, Starling Marte is hitting .317 with an .866 OPS in 11 games with 6 runs batted in. And then Pete Alonso has been great over his last 5 games, hitting .391 with an 1179 OPS, 2 home runs, and 10 runs batted in over those 5 games. He's been a huge piece to their recent turnaround as of late. They need him to stay hot. Brandon Nimmo in his last 6 games has been great as well. 12 for 25 at the plate, a .480 batting average with a 1319 OPS, 2 home runs, and 8 runs batted in. He's been struggling this season, but he's starting to get things going as of late. Still a lot of season left for this Mets team to figure things out. Arizona at this time last year was not in the spot that they were in at the end of the season, obviously making it to the World Series. Nobody expected them at this point last season to make it to the World Series. That's why I always say anybody can heat up. It's just about getting hot at the right moment. The Mets are starting to figure things out midway through the season. Right now, they're in an interesting spot. 1 game out of the wild card in a very tight NL wild card race right now. 7 teams are all within a game and a half of the last wild card spot in the NL, which obviously proves anything can happen over the next month or so before the trade deadline. The biggest question over the next month is whether or not the Mets are going to be sellers or buyers of the deadline. Are they going to keep Pete Alonso and try to build and obviously add some pieces to try to make a run? Or are they going to trade away Pete Alonso and try to go out and try to build to the future? As of right now, I think they hold on to Alonso, but I do think when the trade deadline comes around, I'm probably leaning towards them trading Alonso. Right now, obviously, they're not going to go out and make a trade and trade him. If you do trade him before the deadline, you're going to get a little bit more in return, considering a team could get an extra 15 or 20 games out of him before he's a free agent. If you trade for him at the beginning of July, rather than the end of July, you obviously get a full more month of games out of him. As of right now, I don't think they trade him, but I do think when the deadline does roll around, middle to late of July, I do think he could be a trade piece. I do think they will end up moving on from him. We'll obviously see what happens there. Anyways, that'll wrap up this episode. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen to this. As always, I appreciate it. I hope you guys have a good one. I will see you guys in the next episode. Thank you.